Thanks for joining us on another episode of the In the Game interview series. Today we've got with us Matt Smith. Matt, thank you for taking the time to come on and join us. I know you've got a little bit of free time right now, so why don't you give us your history in the game, what got you started, where you're at now.
Yeah, thanks, Reed. Glad to be with you. Unfortunately, we all have a little bit of time now, or fortunately, whichever way you look at it. So as a player, grew up in Columbia, South Carolina. Went to a small NAIA school called Trevecca Nazarene, which is now they're Division II, right in downtown Nashville. I was actually the fourth generation to go to Trevecca, so a little bit of family pressure as they were starting their program. So played there, came back home once I got done to start my coaching career. Started in high school, my alma mater, where I went to high school, and then got into the club game. Met my future wife through that, and got started in the college game 15 years ago. She actually played at Presbyterian College in Clinton, South Carolina, and I met her old coach, who's still there, Brian Purcell, and he was in need of a goalkeeper coach. And so timing was perfect, and I was able to hop on staff, stayed with him for 5 years. In 2007, 2010, I got the head coaching job at Limestone College in Gaffney, South Carolina, which is where you and I know each other from. And I was there for 7 years. Came in, and it was kind of a tough situation, kind of a rebuilding situation. Was able to build that up, and then in January 2017, started my job at Baylor. I've been there for 3 seasons now, in Waco, Texas, and me and my wife have relocated here, and it's been great, and hopefully we can kind of continue on. But yeah, 15 years in the college game this season, and so that was a little bit aged myself a little bit.
Okay, I'm a little bit younger than you, and this was my 15th year as well.
Yeah, it's all these gray hairs, you can kind of name them after players, throughout the years. So
mine are showing up in the beard first.
Yeah.
So awesome. Yeah, I know. Like you said, we got to know each other when you were there at Limestone. You were able to really build that into a successful program when you were there. What are some of the things that you did to really build that program there?
Well, the first thing that I had to do really is some people would say, oh, well, just go in and clean house. Well, that wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do. I wanted to take those people's experiences and show them that the grass can be greener at the same place. Communication was big. Having open, clear lines of communication, setting standards, I think was probably the biggest thing. And then also taking the fear out of the game. I remember my first season, we lost a game. I can't even remember who to. And the next day the girls came out and were kind of standing on the goal line. And I was kind of looking at them, because that's not how we usually started our warm up. And I was kind of like, what are you guys doing? They're like, well, we lost, so we're going to run. Right. And I was like, well, was fitness the issue in why we lost? No. Okay. If skill and some tactical things is why we didn't perform well, let's work on those. So I took a little bit of the fear out of losing, just in terms of the punishment piece. They always felt that coming into it, they felt that if they didn't perform well, they would be punished. Whereas I try to teach them that the job is to, if you don't perform well, don't make the same mistake twice. Can you build on learning experiences, because that's the best way to learn, is to lose, actually. And so, taking that fear away from them, I think really freed them. And just building that culture. And it took time. It was something that we all want to happen today, and we all want to happen now. But it took probably 5 years to really build that culture. So the culture that you saw in years 6 and 7 when we won the conference championships really was just a result of what we were building towards. And I think just the biggest thing that I had to do when I first got in there was just love the kids. You know, you just gotta you gotta love the kids. You gotta get them. You know, you can say whether you want to get them on your side or whatever. It wasn't really about that. It was, hey, here are the standards. I'm going to care. You know, people who care about being in our program, I'm going to care about you, and I'm going to give you everything I have. And as soon as they started to see that, I think they started to reciprocate that, and we started to see the results on the field.
Yeah, I think kind of what you came into at Limestone was a little bit close to what I kind of took over at Peace, and they needed the attention. They needed to know that everything was going to be okay, and yes, we're gonna push you guys to be better players, but at the same time, we're gonna give you a better experience by doing that.
Right. Yep.
So, what's one of the main reasons that you got into coaching?
Well, the easy answer is I love the game. I love the game, and the people that I've been surrounded by, luckily growing up, Ralph Polson is a big mentor of mine. And the biggest thing that he preaches is give back to the game that gave you so much. And this game has taken me around the world. It's allowed me to meet people from around the world, and it's given me my wife. It's given me, my career. And so I feel every day I kind of feel that I owe something to the game. And so that's probably, the main reason why I do what I do is yes, I love the game, but I love the game because of what it's done for me. And so I feel the debt, the eternal debt that I have to the game is something that I continue to try to pay back every day.
Yeah, I think just kind of thinking about things as you're talking about that, I got my wife through soccer as well, and that's not something that I've really even thought about lately. So that's one of the things that keeps kind of popping up through these series, and the other coaches that I've talked to that have had a chance to watch them, and just they get a chance to kind of think back about their coaching journey and a couple of different things where we talk about that self-reflection piece and how important it is.
Yep. Yeah. But it's always important you don't want to live your life in the rearview mirror, but you always want to realize kind of why you got where you are and how you yourself.
For sure. How has obviously you've been there at Baylor now for, you said 3 years, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How different is it now for you, having been a head coach and kind of going back into an assistant coaching role?
Yeah, it's I got a lot of questions about that when I first took the job, because they were like, well, you're a head coach of now a successful program. You've kind of got it rolling a little bit. And why would you want to go be an assistant? And I think that really kind of what it came down to was I really enjoyed the relationship that an assistant can have with the team. I knew that the head coach that I work with, Paul Jobson, is big on allowing me to do things, allowing me to train the team, train the goalkeepers, train the field players, be involved in that kind of stuff. I didn't want to just be a cone placer. That wasn't for me. And so it was a very specific, this situation is very specific in that I get to do a lot of the coaching. I get to do a lot of recruiting, obviously. And I don't really have to deal with a lot of the admin stuff, which is great. I tell him every time an administrator walks past my office and into his, I know that I'm in the right spot. And that's one of the things that I think a lot of people outside don't really see into is the fact that 80% of our job is not on the field. It's on the computer. It's doing paperwork. It's doing this, that, and the other. And I wanted as much time as possible to actually work with players. I think I got to the point to where at Limestone, my assistant Sam Holmes was at the point where I could really let him do a lot of stuff. And I liked for him to train the team and be involved in the recruiting as much as he could. And I was like, man, I found myself being envious of him, that I didn't always like being the heavy. Well, it's a role that you have to take, and I understand it. It's something that I was like, I kind of want to get back to the training model, to the recruiting and training and bringing kids in and turning them into the final product without having to deal with a lot of the not necessarily logistics, but the bureaucracy of the game.
Yeah.
It's something that Paul really lets me do. I think one thing that it really, I think pushed him to look to bring me in was the fact that I was a head coach. So I was able to step in day one. He had his fourth child on my first day, but he was like, "Hey, Matt, I need you to do care logs. I need you to do this, I need you to do that." And I was like, "Yeah, sure. No problem. I've been doing that for 7 years. That's, no big deal." And so I think that was an attractive piece to, in those experiences, because at Division II, as we don't all have, 3 assistants and all this kind of stuff. We kind of have to do a little bit of everything at those levels. And so I think that really helped me. And then I wanted to be at the highest level of the game. I wanted to push I wanted to recruit the best players in the country. I wanted to coach the best players in the country, coach against some of the best players in the country. And so, that's, I wanted a new challenge, and I definitely got that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always said that I would be a much better assistant coach now that I've been a head coach. Just the understanding of there's so many things asked of college head coaches that anything to take something off of their plate, and that's I think that's one of the big roles of being an assistant, not just at the college level, but just being an assistant overall. And I've been extremely lucky. I just brought on a new assistant here at Peace, and she was a junior college head coach before. And just in her first month of having her with me, it's like, oh, wow, there's so many other things that I can get done now.
Right. Yeah. And I think a big thing is I can go into his office and be like, "Hey, how you doing?" Like, I know what you're doing. I know what you're going through, relatively speaking. And so I can kind of peek my head in and be like, "Hey, how are you doing? How can I help?" Because, we've all been through a lot of similar situations.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you talked a little bit about, with going back and being the assistant, you get help with a lot of recruiting stuff there at Baylor. What are some things that you guys really look for when you're out watching players?
Well, it's a big thing for us is consistency. Do we know what we're going to get from a player day in, day out? I think that we talk a lot in terms of numbers, like, hey, one day you could be an 8, one day you could be a 4. But if you could give me somebody who's going to be a 6 every day, I'll probably take that player.
Yeah.
Because I know exactly what I'm going to get. So consistency is a big thing. And then also kind of bringing an X factor to the game. I think all of us sit out at these games when we're watching players play, and it's the little things that catch our eye. It's not it's not the kid who can, blast the ball 50 yards. It's the kid who can, who's always looking for the ball, always looking to be involved, not afraid to take players on, not afraid to make mistakes, like, just trying to take the game, to the other team, as compared to kind of being out there and making up the numbers, and so somebody who's going to impact the game, somebody who's going to be consistent, and then work rate is massive. The game at the college level is faster, more physical. It's bigger, if you will. The game is more expansive. You've got to be able to affect the game. You've got to be able to read the game, and you've got to be consistent about that, because you're playing 3-4 games in an 8-day period, 8 or 9 day period. You have to be consistent every day in order to kind of impact a program. And so those are really the 3 big things that we're looking for.
Now, how much does the academic side kind of play when you guys are trying to get a whole picture of the player?
Well, it saves us money. The better they are academically, it definitely saves us money, which allows us to allocate the scholarship money to be able to build a program. So it's big for us. It's also something big with this particular program. We had a 3.55 team GPA last fall. It's a very important standard for us to bring in somebody who is going to be able to contribute academically. I think what we want players who want to be great at everything they do, not just the soccer piece. Everything that they sign their name to is elite. And that's something that is really big for us. So obviously from a financial standpoint, it's, that's kind of the obvious way, but in a less obvious way, just, somebody who kind of has their things together and their academic piece together allows them to free their mind, because when I was on, to be honest with you, when I was in school and I was worried about school all the time because I majored in eligibility, when I was on the field training, I was like, okay, what about that F I just got on that test? Whereas a lot of our girls here at Baylor, they're like, I got another 95. I'm probably mad that I got a 95, not a 97. So yeah, it's a very important piece just from, we want players who want to be elite in everything they do. And the academics is obviously a big piece of that because let's just be honest, soccer is not a career for women right now. I hope that one day it is. I hope that one day that is a real option. But your degree is going to take you so much further in life. So, I think it's really a crucial piece to players that we bring in.
For sure. What kind of style of play do you guys play with there at Baylor?
So I'll back up. And when I first came in, another reason that Paul brought me in was to kind of change our style of play. They were man marking all over the field and playing with a sweeper. And so very old school. They actually won a conference championship in 2012 playing like that. Very much a high press, keep the ball in their end as long as you can, play with a sweeper, literally following people everywhere. All over the field. So when I came in, Paul wanted to go to a little bit more of a traditional style of play, and knowing that I played that at Limestone, he was like, okay, you may be able to help with a zonal back four and flat back and dealing with this and all that kind of stuff. So, but I think the big key of one thing they wanted to keep that I love is we really high press up the field. We press with our front three into the attacking third. We're not going to give you anything easy to build out. And then we look to hit you on the counter. And so, if you watch, like Liverpool and Man City, I've been watching some stuff on them and kind of how they do things. And I'm not saying by any means that we are those two teams, but just, philosophically, whereas Man City tries to get you to go in, Liverpool is trying to push you out and then trying to win the ball back and go quickly forward, which is more of what we try to do. So we try to push you to one side, keep it on the outside. Once we get the ball, say to an outside back, we pounce all over it. And then after we win it, can our first pass be forward? Can that break a line? And then can you attack from there? We rely heavily on athleticism. And so kind of the way that I like to describe our style of play is intentional. We don't pass the ball between center backs other than to switch the point of attack. We're not just going to pass it between them just, 4 or 5 times. We want to counterattack. We want to counterattack fast. We want to break lines with every pass that we can. And then from there in the attacking third, can we cross and finish, or do we look to combine to get in? We try to be pretty flexible in terms of our style of play in the attacking third, but we're pretty rigid in the back. We force out wide, we double when we can, we tackle hard, we're great in the air, and then we look to break on the counterattack.
Yeah, I think that a lot of those things that you're talking about are things that I try to employ with my team for sure. I think we try to, when we're in possession, our first option is always forward. That doesn't mean it's a 60-yard ball forward. It can be a 5-yard pass. It could be a 60-yard pass. If it's what's available and it's what is the most dangerous option for us and gives the other team the most issues, that's what we want to try to do for sure.
Yeah, I think it's important to allow decision making, and to teach decision making in terms of giving ideas and, hey, here's what we want to do when the back line is pushed up, when their back line is dropped off, when they're stretched, when that kind of thing, but encourage free decision making. Not this is where it has to go when the ball's here, but building in ideas to encourage free decision making to allow the game to flow.
Yeah, I think I'm not the quietest coach on the sidelines. You can attest to that. But at the same time, our players aren't robots. We're not playing FIFA, so we've got to kind of build that into them as well, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What's one of your favorite activities to do with your teams?
So kind of leading into that from the decision-making thing is I've been doing a lot of I've always loved passing patterns and giving ideas and things like that. But where that really has morphed is into functional passing patterns, position-specific passing patterns, and really not giving one option. saying, okay, if this, then that, but if that, then this. So I say that to say, hey, let's push the ball from the center back to the outside back. You can play into the center forward, you can play into the center midfielder, or you can play into the winger. Off of that, different patterns occur. So the ball goes into the center forward, we go up, back, and through. The ball goes to the winger. Can we combine to get in behind, either with the center midfielder or the center forward? You play into the center midfielder. Can they drive maybe to break a line and then play from there? And so, while instituting some general passing patterns, center back to outside back and then forward, what that looks like after that can look different every time in the passing pattern as compared to it goes from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and then it kind of gets mundane and robotic. And I am completely against the model of hey, the ball when the ball's here, the ball has to go there, or hey, when the ball's here, it can never go there. There's never one thing that makes our game great is that there's never a never, and there's never an always. It's all there's so many variables to our game, which is one thing that makes it great, and that's what I try to build in with some of those functional passing patterns. Is hey, here's your general layout, here's some ideas. Now go make decisions. And I'm not really worried about how it gets there. It's that it gets there.
Yeah, I think that's you're spot on with there's always a never and there's never an always, because and that's one of the things that when my players ask me questions at times, I know it drives them crazy because they want a very quick, simple, this is what you do. And one of my players almost had a mental breakdown this past fall. She was like, well, I'm in this position and what do you want me to do? I'm like, well, it depends. That doesn't help me. I said, well, it depends on what this player's doing. 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 He's like, so basically, you're telling me that I have to make a decision. You're not going to tell me what to do, right? Yep, you're right. She's like, awesome, thank you. So it's one of those things that kind of goes back to the decision-making piece. The players have to be able to see it and recognize it themselves, because if we're telling them, it's probably too late.
Yeah, and they've got to feel that freeing feeling from you. To be able to have confidence to make those decisions. And maybe it's not the perfect one, but I think, what I always kind of tell our girls is the only wrong decision is not making one.
Yeah.
Make a decision, make it with conviction, and make an aggressive move. Like that's a right decision. It doesn't matter kind of where that happens to be, but the only wrong decision is not making one and being kind of paralyzed and stuck, and that's when you get in trouble. And so them having that feeling of, hey, I'm free to kind of make my decision here. They've given me ideas of about 3 or 4 different options, and I've got to be able to look for that before I get the ball so that I can make the best decision that I think I can make at the time.
For sure. What's one of your favorite coaching memories?
Well, the easy one would be the first conference championship at Limestone in 2015. That was just a crazy one. We had all the rain that year, and we were actually supposed to play the final at Belmont Abbey. They agreed to play at our place on turf, and because they were like, oh yeah, we play well on turf, like no big deal. Like we're almost like saying we're going to beat them anyway, kind of thing, and we were able to upset them, and that would be the easy one. But I always go back to my first year at Limestone, and the fact that I got that group of girls to go 500, I think we went like 8-7-2 or something like that, was probably the greatest achievement that I've had as a coach. I think that team maxed out its potential, and that's really what you want as a coach. Whether you go 18-0 or we went in 2018, we won 20 games here at Baylor. We went to an Elite Eight. We won a regular season conference championship, and that team maxed out. I think that's what you want. I think if you have a team that could win 20 games and wins 10, you're kind of left there with a little bit of an empty feeling. But when a team maxes out its potential, it's really a rewarding thing, and really has kind of stuck with me as one of my favorite memories for sure. Is going 8-7-2 my first year at Limestone. To be my best memory is kind of weird to hear, but it probably is.
It's interesting to hear a lot of coaches answer to that question, because It's typically not their championship seasons that they give as that. My favorite season being a college head coach was my first year at Peace. We went 2-10-1, but it was a big challenge for me just personally. How can I get the most out of this group, and how can I continue to show that we're improving as a program, so that way we can get better players in. I absolutely had a great time. I had 17 players. We had one goalkeeper, and it was probably the most fun I've had with a group through a college season yet.
Yeah, I do have to say that a very close second, maybe even 1B, was my first year at Baylor. We're in the second round of the national tournament. We're at Texas A&M, and we're playing the defending national champions. We're playing Southern California, and we're down 1-0. We're plugging away. We're in the game, but we just can't get one to go, and we actually equalize with 4 seconds left in regulation. And the place just goes crazy. I don't even know what I did. There's a picture of me like on top of a dog pile. I don't remember any of that. But we actually ended up going on to win in penalties, and then actually went and beat Notre Dame the next time, the next 2 days later to go into the Elite Eight for the first Elite Eight ever in program history. So that's a close second. Yeah. But in terms of rewarding, it was definitely that first one.
For sure. That's sure that was an awesome experience to be a part of with equalizing that late in the match and being able to go and do those great things. Sure. What's one of the most important pieces that you feel like is about being a coach?
Patience is one. You've got to be patient. I think, as we talked about before, in terms of building a culture, you've got to be patient with players. You got to be patient with recruits, that they'll come around. You've got to be patient with administration. You've got to be patient with your athletic trainers and your strength coaches with kind of what you want to instill in your culture. And then I think the second piece to that is communication, is being on the same page. We tell it to our players on the field all the time, is over communicate, talk your way through the game. And I think that's something that I think as coaches, we sometimes drop the ball on. I know I have. I know for sure that's something that I've tried to improve on throughout my career, and is the communication piece, whether it's praising or whether it's coaching. I won't necessarily call it criticizing, because I think that's a misconception between coaching and criticizing. But in coaching points, is when you do have to be kind of the bearer of bad news, is can you communicate that in a way that, hey, this is going to help you. Like, this isn't fun to go through, but I'm going to communicate this, and I can help you through this. And, so allowing those and communicating standards and everything like that so patience is key. Understanding that it's not going to be here today. It probably won't even be here next week or next month or maybe even next year. But being patient with the process, and then being able to communicate that to your players and to the people that you surround yourself with are two of the biggest things that I think as a coach that can kind of help you, and things that I know I was bad at, not only not good at, but bad at as a young coach, to where I'm still kind of growing in that area now.
Yeah, I think with the patience piece is huge, and that's definitely something that if you talk to my players and you talk to my wife, I'm not the most patient person. But I'm definitely much more patient than I was as a 21-year-old assistant, for sure. I don't know how people work with that guy.
Yeah, there's times that I'm like, how did I keep my job? Just from, I wanted it now. I wanted it yesterday. And I think that but we're all competitive. Like, that's the deal. Like, we're competitors. So we want to, you, like you said, in your first year at Peace, you rolled in and you went, your expectations probably weren't to go 10-2 as compared to 2-10. Yeah. But you wanted to win every game. Every game, every time the whistle blew, you wanted to win. So it's about being a competitor, but also seeing out far enough that this is what we're building to, as compared to, it's not today, but can what we do today help us with what we're going to do tomorrow and the next day, and so on and so forth.
For sure. I think it's that long-term plan with the short-term goals, what's going to allow us to get there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Do you have any last-minute nuggets for young coaches?
Stick with it. It's something that, be open-minded, look to work in scenarios that maybe are just like we were talking about with players. Get out of your comfort zone, whether that's running a camp, with people that you don't know, or, going, looking for ways to kind of, to keep learning, outside of your comfort zone, I think is big. But stick with it, and you won't work a day in your life. When you kind of get on the roll of your career starting, and you and I are kind of in the same spot of, we have kind of paid our dues a little bit. You don't ever repay your dues, but you've kind of worked your way forward, and it's one of the coolest journeys. It'll take you around the world and it'll let you meet some of the most incredible people. And so it is worth it, and enjoy it.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to be said for going through the hard times and making you appreciate things. When I first took over as the assistant in Mount Olive, I was making $10,000 a year, and I wouldn't have had it any other way.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to go through the bad times for the good times to mean more.
For sure. Well, Matt, we really, really do appreciate you taking some time to talk with us today. We look forward to continuing what you guys are building there at Baylor, and wish you the best of luck.
All right. Thanks, Reed. Appreciate it. You do the same, man. Keep on grinding.
Sir.